Have you ever wanted a Ragavan in your command zone that triggers for each opponent you hit in black and for some reason is an anime waifu? Then I believe Tithe Extractor is the commander for you. Straight from the Foundations Jumpstart set, we have this 3/3 human rogue for 3 and a black that whenever we attack, target creature gains death touch until the end of turn. As well as, whenever one or more creatures we control deal combat damage to a player, we create a treasure token, then look at the top card of that player's library and exile it face down. Then, we may cast that card as long as it remains exiled. Overall, this is a commander that cares about attacking each of our opponents each turn, so we can create a lot of treasure tokens and using whatever we exile to our advantage. To achieve this game plan, we're going to follow these 8 categories on our deck building process. First we have Mana Acceleration. We start with Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, which are staples of the format. Then we'll have Dark Ritual, which will help us play our commander on turn 2. Jet Medallion, which in a mono black deck will reduce the cost of all our spells by 1 generic mana. Black Market, which works with the quantity of expendable creatures that we run, and our interaction with our opponent's creatures will generate a lot of mana that we can use for either our spells or what we have stolen from our opponents. Bucknard's Ever Full Purse, which synergizes with the treasure generation our commander does, and if we're lucky, we can generate a lot of treasures early on. Speaking of treasures, we're running Horde Robber, which when connecting with an opponent will create a treasure token, as well as Centurion Bandit, which triggers on attack, and at the cost of 1 life. Buraco's Party Leader will do the same, and additionally will make defending player lose life, scaling with the number of creatures in a party we have, which, taking into account that our commander and most of the creatures of the deck are rogues, this number will be at least 2. Grim Hireling also complements this strategy, as we will generate 2 tokens per player that we are hitting, and the ability to pay a black and sacrificing X treasures will let us keep a clear path so we can keep hitting with our creatures. Lastly, Thieving Varmint will give us 2 mana of the color that we need to cast the things that we have stolen with Rev. Additionally, being a 2/1 with Death Touch and Lifelink will make our opponents hesitate to block and recover some life along the way. For card advantage, we have Dockside Chef, so we can sacrifice either treasures or creatures to draw cards. Idol of Oblivion. With our commander's ability to generate treasures, this will always give us a card by just tapping it. Ayara, First of Lockthwain, which we can attack, and if we're blocked or another creature is going to be destroyed, we can tap it in response and let us draw a card. Mastermind Plum gives us a card as long as we use treasure to cast our spells. Phyrexian Arena, a reliable additional card per upkeep. And Dread Presence, that when we play one of our swamps, it can give us a card, or, if we need it, deal 2 damage to any target and gain 2 life. Next category is Strategy Synergy, which in this case are cards that we want to deal damage to our opponent, so we can trigger our commander, as well as having effects on their own to help us on our game plan. This includes Changeling Outcast and Tormented Soul, 1-drops that are unblockable. On a similar fashion we have Vampire Cutthroat, which is a hard to block creature with the Skulk ability, Tiny Bones the Pickpocket, which will let us cast a non-land permanent from the graveyard of the player that we deal damage to. Dauthi Cutthroat, Dauthi Ghoul, Dauthi Horror, Dauthi Slayer, and Dauthi Warlord are 2-drops with Shadow that have synergy with the keyword itself. Nether Trader is a similar card that additionally, if one of our creatures die, we can bring it back from the graveyard with just 1 black mana. Drana, Liberator of Malakir, will give a +1/+1 counter to each attacking creature we have. Nashi will let us cast from the top of the player we dealt damage to, and we can pay life instead of mana. Orochi Soul River will give us additional treasures and additional attackers with its manifest ability, and Rakish Crew, which will give us a mercenary, so we can have an extra body to attack, but also it will be a budget option instead of Zulaport Cutthroat. For the next category, we have Token Synergy. Our commander is creating treasure tokens, and we want to have as much cheap attackers as we can. So for this category, we will start with Bitter Blossom, Ophiomancer, and Endrexar, Master Breeder. With these cards, we can fill our battlefield with cheap, evasive creatures. Academy Manufacturer will trigger each time we create a token with Rev, and also synergizes with Mirkwood Bats and Agent of the Iron Throne, as the bats care about the creation and sacrifice of tokens, and the background cares about artifacts hitting our graveyard. Also, if our creatures die, Pitiless Plunder will give us another treasure, and we can start this cycle all over again. Our next category is Combat Enablers. With these cards we're seeking to have our creatures connect easier with our opponents. For example, Shadow Alley Denizen gives Intimidate to one of our creatures if a black creature has entered on our side of the field. Butch Deloria, Tunnel Snake, Having itself menace, it can also grant it to another creature for 2 mana, as well as transforming it into a rogue. Also to take into account its ability of Tunnel Snake's rule, as we already have naturally a lot of rogues in our deck, including our commander. Also, there's more than a couple of sneaky snakes that have made their way into our deck. Tithe Trapper can tap to give any creature shadow, which makes it pretty much unblockable. We also have Tithe Embrace, which is practically the enchantment version of this, but by paying 2 mana instead of tapping it. Then we have Marry the Killing Quill, which will give our assassins, mercenaries and rogues Death Touch, as well as a nice bonus if we have exiled an opponent's creature with a hit counter. To do so, we have our interaction package, which includes Defile, Accursed Marauder, Consuming Corruption, Dokuchi Silencer, Feed the Swarm, Infernal Grasp, Tithe Jackal, Withering Torment, Baleful Mastery, and Blood Money. Then for our graveyard interaction we have Vat of Rebirth, which will get counters easy, taking into account the number of treasures we're generating. Lively Dirge will let us get 2 small creatures and or tutor up one that we want to revive into our graveyard, Victimize as a 2/1, and Inkai's Servant of the Oni, which will let us steal a creature from an opponent's graveyard. Lastly, for payoffs, or cards that we're going to win with, we have Cranial Plating, which will let us one-hit someone if we have enough treasures, or we can spend them all on an Exsanguinate. Or if we have 10 or more, we can win on our upkeep with Revel in Riches, Strixhaven Stadium, as we have a lot of hard-to-block creatures, and the classic Grey Merchant of Asphodel. For our lands we have 26 Swamps, Abstergo Entertainment, Exotic Orchard, Guildless Commons, Spire of Industry, and War Room. We are also running 5 MDFCs, bringing up our total land count to 36. At the time of recording, this deck costs $174, which makes it out of range of a budget deck, but still way cheaper than other lists on the internet. Especially taking into account that our commander is worth $60 as per the time of recording this video. This has been my version of Rev Tithe Extractor. What is yours? And what fun cards do you add to your deck list? Let me know in the comments below, as well as what commander do you wish to see next. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe on your way down there. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned.